Okay, so hello, Nathalie Kakon. I'm so excited to talk to you. Natalie, actually, I've been sort of following her work on Instagram, and just one day she posted about body neutrality, and I thought, hey, this is really cool. I want to know more about this, and I thought it was perfectly in line with this whole theme of body shame that we've been dealing with throughout the weeks. It just sounds like we're getting closer and closer to different solutions and different ways to allow people to find serenity and well-being in their body without feeling constantly inadequate. And I just from writing Sex Up Your Life and interviewing so many people, I know that people even bought like models have body shame. The whole general public will look at them and think they're perfect. These people have body shame. So I was like, when people, even like the people that seem to be the most perfect, have body shame, there's a real problem in society in my books. So I think we're on a better track here.
Mhm.
And I'm just really excited to hear what she has to say. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me on your live podcast.
We had a few technical difficulties. That's why we're not directly on Facebook right now, but you're able to listen to our live stream as we're doing it and going to be posting it later. So thank you for your patience. Um, so Natalie, tell me, sort of a little bit who you are and why body neutrality is important to you.
um, okay, a little bit who I am. I own ELMNT Studio. I'm one of the co-founders of ELMNT Studio. We today it's a pretty emotional day for me. We just announced that we've closed ELMNT Monkland due to COVID.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
our baby, and we still have Griffintown and many other projects in the flow, but it's been a pretty big day.
Oh.
Um, so yeah, so this is when we created Element Studio, we created a full intention and mission statement to kind of move away from body positivity or any sort of body shaming and really move into the world of body neutrality. And body neutrality really means is that we're taking the enormous significance away from the body and moving it into the um, internal landscape of an experience. So
I
where
see that I'm just feeling it all over my body, like, ooh, this is good. I like how you're like the enormous significance.
Mhm.
And we've been pulled so much into our eyes and into the visuals with everything we see. So that totally makes sense, like kind of countering of that.
Yeah, well, I think body positivity started in a really good way. Like it was a very socio and political movement in the late 1960s, when there were lots of, when the when it was when models like Twiggy or different white female models, it was really showing that it was one way of being, and so shame started to really be created in body. And so I think it was I forget her name. It was James. I'm not gonna say her name right, um, but it was a woman that started it in the late 1960s because her sister had passed away from body shame essentially, and she had all this surgery done to her body to look like and to be perfect in the eye of the public. And she passed away at the age of 36. So this woman started this movement called body positivity, and it started with all of the right intentions, but then obviously corporate America, the multinational, multi-million dollar business took it over and really ran with it, and it became kind of this way to make people go on this like uphill journey of only staying positive to their body. And it's impossible to always love your body. It's impossible to always love the world. It's impossible to always be positive. And
Mhm.
so in body positivity, if you're not positive, that means you don't like your body. And it's
Right,
very, very body focused.
right.
The beauty industry is always saying like love your body, love the skin you're in, make sure. So there's nothing about the internal experience, there's nothing about the actual feelings, the like um it kind of creates like I there was a I if I'm talking too fast, sometimes I do that. Please slow me down. But there's a blogger that I really like, and she said, you know, with body positivity, the body acts as an ornament, and with body neutrality, the body acts as a instrument.
Mm,
I really, really love that. It's not so much about it's not about the body being part of the worth. It's about your worth in the experiences that you have, and really and really getting to know who you are outside of your body, outside of your physical. So your spiritual, your soul, your mental, everything. It's we're a multifaceted being, and to be summarized in just a body doesn't make sense.
right. Wow, I'm so excited to hear that. Like I've been searching for this for so long. Like, there's well, we all have intuitions about things, but to have someone be able to crystallize it in words and just make it so clear like that, because that's what I've been striving for, finding this sort of paradigm where we can really exist as these multifaceted human beings. So I'm really excited about what you're saying. So why was it important to you?
It was important to me because growing up, I mean, I definitely had a lot of shame about my body. I struggled with an eating disorder for a few years. I grew up in a culture where food, and again, it's so multi-layered, where food is a big part of celebration, it's a big part of grief, it's a big part of life, and we're supposed to enjoy what we eat and let it help us to create relationship and connection.
Yes.
And I was always afraid of food because I was always supposed to, quote unquote, love my body, be this perfect size, be this thing. And so it became this battle in itself of,
Like, how old were you when that battle started?
I was about 16 when the eating disorder began, but I mean, it had started when I was going through puberty. You know, we look
Yeah.
at images growing up in this age of like models, bloggers, social media, like all of it. It's just like all of these images all the time of these perfect bodies of how we're supposed to be, and so yeah, so I wanted to be this thin, beautiful being that loved my body, but it was in such a wrong way.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you always tell me, like, if there's questions that you don't want to answer, like it's fine. But I sometimes go in the I'm curious to find out, like, some of the driving forces behind things and get context. So, um, so when you were that teenager, and you said you were in this cultural context, so what was that culture exactly, and how did that play out with the eating disorder?
So I grew up in a home, in a Jewish home, and um, my like every I mean every weekend there was a big buffet on the table. Every night there were big festivities. I grew up in a big home, and all of our events revolved around food. And if you didn't eat, people would look at you. If if you ate too much, it was never a problem. It was always celebrated. Because in our culture, to be a little bit bigger is to be healthy. It's to be filled with life. And so it's very different from the American culture that I grew up in, the American Canadian culture that I grew up in, that I was seeing these images of these actresses and wanting to look like them, but in my culture that wasn't really what was being um, uh, what's the word, like, celebrated or honored.
Yeah. I think it's so fascinating. Yeah, this kind of contrast of like this festival space with the family and the culture and the eating, and here we are with this completely different message, and there's this kind of glitch happening.
Mhm.
So how did the eating disorder start? Like, how did you start? How did that start showing up in your life?
Well, it's a control of food, essentially. Like, I think we can't really control our genetics because we're born in the body that we're in, but we can definitely control our food intake and see how much, like, and control our weight. So for me, it was a lot of control. So I would only eat a certain amount a day. I actually remember my diet very specifically. It was not healthy at all. It was a apple in the morning. For lunch, I had a bowl of frosted flakes, and then for dinner, I would have a bagel and cheese, and that was all I would eat.
Right. And then how would that look when you were in your, like, there's a festival, in your home?
I wouldn't partake. I would go upstairs. I would hide in my room. If I came downstairs, I would just have water. I would.
Mm.
It started to become lying. Oh, I already ate. I already,
Right.
I'm full. I can't eat anymore. And it would. I would have a lot of disassociation, and it would a disconnect from the relationships from the people around me. Food is a big part of our culture. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow, this is so interesting. So, so that started happening. Did you get to a really acute place where you like it was really, really difficult, or it was just like this was you just noticed I have to stop this?
My mother actually really pushed into me for a lot of months. Um, to I'm we I mean we have a really big family and a family that isn't nothing goes unseen and unheard. And so she really started uh, like coming down on me and asking me a lot of questions and sitting down with me and talking it out with me, um, to the point where I knew I was getting really really sick and I needed to do something about it. So I sought the help and I asked for the support.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Like, who were your icons of beauty when you were like a teenager? Who do you look to and be like, I want to look like that?
Oh, Michelle Pfeiffer. um, I think like I can't. I mean, it's 20 years ago. You know.
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
um, so hmm, yeah, I can't really remember the exact models. I just remember being bombarded with images of all these beautiful women that I could never look like because I just don't have those genetics.
Right. Right. So that happened. You kind of and so what was your path of getting into healthier space around that?
Really understanding that it had nothing to do with my body. So through this process, I started to go into, I signed up for a few courses, and one of them was journeying through the chakras. And the chakras is a system of seven spots in your body that relate to emotions and relate to different emotions through the body. And um, and so we did this course, and it was a 12-week course, and every week we every weeks we moved into a different chakra, and we started with the root, and moved up the line, and we had to journal and answer lots of questions and create a project of how we moved in and how we moved out of the course. And throughout this 12-week course, it really transformed my life. Like, I really started to understand that so much of my focus was outward,
Mhm.
and where I really needed to go was inward. So much of my trauma that I'd never moved through, so much of, sorry, I forgot to turn off my phone. So much of so much of my life was outward, and I really wanted to go inward, and I didn't even know where to start or have any kind of help or support to go inwards. And this course really helped me to see that journaling, self-care, going into the more experiential parts of myself really helped me to start to see my body as a vehicle instead of the main event.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
That's really cool. So how did you come about discovering the concept of body neutrality?
So, body neutrality started in 2015. It was a concept that was created then. I just, I'm always looking and trying to discover new ways talking about the body and the experience of the internal body. And so I came across the phrase and the trademark, and I started to
Like
Google it. And
who created the trademark?
the trademark was created by Green Mountain. It's like a company, I guess. But but
Are they like a yoga company or?
they're like a self-help company, I believe. Um, they have like retreats and all of these things. And but it had started before them. They were the ones that just put a trademark on it. And I really, really enjoyed the concept of it. I thought it was really brilliant. Like instead of um, instead of instead of really putting the focus on the body and saying like, oh, I need to feel attractive to feel good, it's saying like, I don't need to feel attractive to live my best life. Like I can just live. um I think like one of
Actually, that moment of being like, I can just be is actually extremely liberating, right?
oh my god, totally.
Oh, I have breathing. Okay, breath.
Yeah, oh my god, it's like I always give the analogy of like a woman going through the monthly cycle, like her menstrual cycle. In 1 month, if we're supposed to always be positive and say like, I love my body every moment of every day, first of all, that is so insane to say. Like, how can someone love their body every moment of every day? We're allowed to, that's negating all emotions, that's negating everything that we feel, that's
Yeah.
basically gaslighting our own self and saying like
That's a really
we're
good
not allowed to feel.
health.
Yeah, which is crazy. um and 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 it's like, even if I look the same, I can have so many different feelings to make me feel that I don't look good, and that is totally acceptable. It doesn't mean that if I don't look good, that I'm not enjoying my experience in many other ways.
Hmm.
It's not the main contributor.
Right.
Mhm.
So you discovered this and you're like, aha, it was like an aha moment for you?
Definitely. Yeah, it's like looking, because for example, like I wake up in the morning and I'll look at my body in the mirror, and even the least critical person in the world will find something about their body that might not they might not feel good about. Um, and so instead of saying like, oh, I don't like my thighs, like they're not shapely, they don't have that thigh gap or whatever it is, um, I say like, okay, I might not like my thighs today. I didn't run for the past few days, and it's totally okay to have body goals and want to achieve certain things in your body. But it's also like, what am I grateful for? Oh, my body, my thighs help me walk, they help me jog, they help me bend, they help me dance, they help me do all of the things that I love. So I have
Hmm.
an appreciation for my legs. I don't necessarily have to love them to appreciate them, to accept them, to do them, but have all those other adjectives and qualities for them to really to give them the gratitude to help me live the life that I want to live. So the body becomes secondary in my experience of life, which is
Mhm.
which is really which is so much easier to live.
Yeah, it's like this little thing less that you have to sort of convince yourself of.
Mm-hmm.
Like a bit of a like letting go,
Yeah.
but also there's also like an honoring of the body.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, I think I'm, without this vehicle, we wouldn't be able to do all of the things that I mean, a lot of the things that we like to do. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, it is a gratitude practice. And I think being body neutral is an awareness of every moment. It is a gratitude of every moment, because um, yeah, and I don't think it happens over 1 day. I think it's a process over time to really appreciate your body in a very, very different way, especially if you've been body positive for so long and really focused on the body. Um,
What would the inner discourse of a like or an inner dialogue of a body positive person? What would that would look like to contrast it?
um, so like a great, I actually have something on my computer from she's an Instagrammer. It's called Beyond Beautiful Book. And if you don't follow her, you should definitely follow her. She's incredible. So one of her one of her contrasts is body positive is I feel good about myself because I know I'm beautiful. And body neutral is how I feel about myself has nothing to do with my appearance.
How you feel has nothing to do with your appearance.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a very different way of, um, of stating things.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have a few more examples of that, just so that we can like sort of really see how it could apply to our life?
Yeah.
Just contrasting them.
So the contrast of body positive is um, I I I love my body, um, and I will like oof, to think of body. I haven't thought of body positive examples in a long time. So I would say like body neutral is more like I am more than my appearance. Um, I'm a multifaceted being.
Hmm.
Uh, my worth does not depend on what I look like. My appearance will shape shift and evolve throughout my life. Um,
I
I
choose my boyfriend because I gained 3 pounds.
yeah, that's um, like yeah, it really it changes the idea of worth. Body positive. Um, I haven't I haven't used examples for body positive in such a long time that I
Well, I'm just thinking like things like maybe like no matter what I see, like I think I have the best breast or the best belly, whatever it's like it's always been positive. I love my fat. I don't know, would it be like that?
yeah, I love my body no matter what. I am beautiful. I am beautiful despite my fat, or like I love my fat just as much as I love um, I don't know, like my cellulite is something that I love, and like all these things that like
I'm gonna show it off.
yeah, and I'm like I don't love my cellulite. I I wish I didn't have it.
Yeah, yeah. Right, right. It sounds like a very like almost coming back to something more realistic.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't take away that there's a gratitude for the body, but it's just like not trying to twist your actual feelings into something they're not. It's like accepting how you're feeling in that moment. It's like a very much of a process of acceptance.
Yeah, it's almost like radical acceptance, body neutrality. I find body positivity is this like bliss-like state that corporate America wants us to like move towards and always be positive and really gaslight ourselves and just and not even really get into what we truly feel.
Hmm.
And this dates back like I mean during the during the women's movement, and I might go I'm on a tangent a little bit, and please stop me if I go too far. But during the women's movement, that's really when body positivity started to take shape, and that's when the multi-million-dollar corporations started to happen, and we like we were just starting to ask for like voting rights and going to school, and females were just starting to enter into like more equality, and all of a sudden there's these images of really thin skinny women that become this prototype for body positivity, and it kind of like um, it kind of created this impossible image
Like ideal.
ideal to be, where women spent like almost 95% of their brain capacity and their body's strength to be this image.
Right.
So it's like almost like a way to shut us down and thin us out and make us take up such little space um, that that
Well,
body.
you also said like before you, I'm interrupting you a moment, sorry about that. But like even like that fact that you're like obsessing over it and all your mental power and all your inner world gets like obsessed with this, it does like bring you into smaller scope of than what we're fully capable of doing, right? So
It weakens us. Yeah, I like imagine how much time a being spends on obsessing over what they look like and what their body looks like, and lying to themselves because they need to be positive all the time about it, and how much of that brain and body capacity can be spent on so many other things. Like, if you eliminate that, like, I think a lot of people could take over the world with all of that brain capacity.
yeah, if we focus it towards a whole other goal, there's a whole other like energy there that's gonna
Yeah, I
that
think
needs to be channeled into something.
it's like, yeah, it's like all of this like puts us in a box and keeps us there. It keeps us caged in this ideal of wanting to be. Even when they started putting plus size models, like, and learning about plus size models and learning how they pad them and Photoshop them and make them into this like ideal type of this hourglass figure, none of these plus size models have that body. And
Interesting. I didn't know about that. That's interesting. Yeah.
it's wild, like learning about all of this and really seeing like how impossible these body types are is, and how many people strive to have them is, it's sad. It's really sad, um,
Yeah.
for so many different reasons.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So so I'm curious. So then you've discovered this, and it is something that you actually teach in your in your yoga studio. Like, is it something that you incorporate in the actual mission and design of your courses?
Yes. So in our studio, we have no mirrors. And when people first come in, they're like, we need mirrors, we need to see ourselves and all this stuff. And like there's a lot of different emotions that come out.
Hmm.
Um, and what we teach them is that it's a resilience, right? It's like if you're in an experience and you catch a glimpse of yourself, a glimpse of your reflection, you get taken out of the experience. So
Hmm.
if you can fully embody an experience and really feel it all, then a resilience starts to grow against the physical appearance. And then we start to feel, okay, this is how I truly feel when I'm exercising. This is how who cares about your alignment?
Yeah.
Not going to hurt yourself. Um, I mean, of course, like we want to be careful. We want to always be active in certain things. But if you have a teacher in the room and they're guiding you through something, it's no one's like, we're not teaching in our classes, we're not teaching exercises with like 150 pounds on top of you. We're teaching body resistant things. So it's really, it's not a big uh, I'm losing my words. It's not a,
It's not, there's not a big risk.
yeah,
Like,
there's not a risk. Thank you.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, we really want to take people out of that mind frame of like, oh, I need to look at myself, I need to check myself out, because how often do we check ourselves out for alignment and to, oh, look good, or I should smile, all the shoulds and coulds and needs of the body.
Even like I'm thinking like I've, being in a studio, you see yourself, you're like, shit, I'm actually so much fatter than I thought. And it's like instead of being in the exercise, you're like, oh man, that and
Yeah, and so when we take the mirrors away, then people can really take the time to be within themselves and really feel what it is to move their body and experience all of the endorphins, all of the pleasures of moving their body, and get to know what positions they like, what movements they like, what movements they don't like, what makes their body go into pleasure, and what makes their body um, and mind, come back into the present. And
what
so
I really love about that is that we've become such like in our senses really focused in the eyes with movies, with internet, with TV, with a lot of media. We're in the eye experience, and we kind of lose the sense of all the other senses. And it feels as though by cutting that out, you learn about your spatial sense, and you learn about inner relationship with your body, and it's like a whole other thing that's being cultivated here.
Yeah, and I think you also like, I mean, in our classrooms, people talk to each other. So another way that we've set it up is that we don't set up your props for you. We ask you to to take your props out, to put them back in, and during that, you start to dialogue with other people and you build relationships and connections. And instead of being insecure or intimidated because you're looking in a mirror and you're like, oh, I don't look good today, my hair is a mess, and all these things, it's like
Yeah.
you're just connecting and you forget about all that stuff and you're just you and you're just present and you
Mhm.
start to laugh a little bit more and you're not as self-conscious and you're just having a good time. And it creates this feeling of like, oh yeah, I can have a good time because I don't care what I look like. So like I can take this and bring it into the outside life and say like, okay, sometimes like I and it starts with like a day at a time. Like sometimes I don't care what I look like. One day I don't care what I look like, and then it's like, oh, I don't really care what I look like. I love me. Like or some days I won't love me, some days I will love me, but I'll just keep going because I know what I love to do for me, for my self care, to make myself feel good outside of just my physical body.
Mm-hmm. And does this extend to like gender experiences too?
Of course. So in our studio, we have no gendered bathrooms. It's all gender neutral. No matter where you are on the spectrum, how you identify, everyone is welcome. And there's no, yeah,
Taking away the focus on all these differences.
sorry?
It's kind of like taking off the focus off the differences.
It's just being human and kind of almost um, like moving away from like what we see in the in normal life and just saying like, okay, we are creating an experience here where it's non-judgmental. You can walk in how you are. We're not going to look at you, we're not going to shame you, we're not going to say anything. We just want you to understand who you are and never feel like you have to hide who you are.
Hmm.
I think like, I mean, in my past I've had to hide a lot of stuff about myself.
Mhm.
I like um I don't like using labels, but like being a queer woman and not really understanding what that word meant for a very long time, and not being able to tell my family because I was so scared of all of it and everything, and moving into a space where there's no such thing as I mean, there's understanding that there's a spectrum of gender, there's a spectrum of love, there's a spectrum of how people relate to one another, and you don't have to be a certain way um, to be quote unquote queer, and you don't have, like there's no categories. It's just like if you um, like it's just allowing someone to live
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, like allow them to get connected to what's real for them inside and to be able to show up that way and
Yeah,
not
and,
be fun of or
and not have to
humiliated or made
and
wrong.
not have to fit in a box.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So, what have been some of the results? Like, what kind of comments and feedback do you get from your participants?
Oh, they absolutely love it. At the beginning, they don't understand it, but then they love it. They just like I've seen people transform. The messages that we receive daily, weekly about people just saying, you've helped me um, you've helped me realize that a goal is great, but it's the journey. It's not really just there and punishing myself to get there and hurting myself along the way and lying to myself. It's really about acceptance and being real and just saying like every experience is going to be very different. Every body, every being, every experience is going to be different.
Mhm. Do you know if you've had any impact on anyone that's had like like eating disorders or things like that, or is that not people haven't necessarily spoken about that?
Um, I I mean, I think it's a little bit more of a sensitive subject to come right out and say it. I know at our studio we're never one to shy away from having hard conversations with clients, and so if um, I and I'm so happy to have this type of conversation, because I don't know what's right and what's wrong, and we're always growing and evolving and changing, and I think if we don't talk about it, then we'll never learn. And so please call
Yeah.
me out if you think that this is an absolutely wrong way of doing things. Um, but we did have a one case where we had a client come in, and she was extremely thin, and a lot of our other clients were getting worried, and they were terrified that she was going to have a heart attack in studio. And and because of what we stand for, and because we stand for taking care of yourself, and community support, and we decided to have a conversation with her, and tell her, like, we appreciate her and we want her to be healthy. And so we thought it would be best if if not that she didn't come to the gym, but instead of taking classes, she just came to hang out. If she needed that support, if she needed a community, we're happy to have her. But maybe working out 5 times a week isn't the best thing for a body that is malnourished.
Hmm.
And we had an extensive conversation with her, and it wasn't as like cut and dry. And she really opened up to us, and she spoke to us. And only like a few months later did she really open up to us about everything. And she was really thankful, but it was a really tough conversation, because I, I, I would never think that I would have to have that kind of conversation in a gym where, we're meant to like be like, well, just work out, just keep doing things for your body. But it's like, no, we're much more than a fitness studio. We're a community and we take care of each other.
Okay, so I think I misunderstood. I thought it was more of a yoga studio, but it's actually a gym. It has all kinds of different
Yeah. So
things that you're doing.
it's like we do spin, bar, yoga, hit, Pilates, and a few signature classes.
Wow. Okay, it's very extensive.
Yeah.
Wow, so it sounds as though, yeah, like you really care about your clients and their well-being, and it was a hard conversation, but it actually allowed her to get more real about what was going on for her,
Mm-hmm.
make some other decisions, and but you guys were still there to support her in
Yes.
the transition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know if that was right or if that was wrong, or if we should just, if in the future we just let people continue on because people need to figure it out on their own, or if it is important to show up like a family and say, like, hey, like, we care about each person that walks through our door. Um, but I think that's Andrew is the other co-founder, and I think that's it's just our being. We're just we care about people, and we want people to just to acknowledge what they're moving through.
Well, I think people actually appreciate being seen. I think being seen and heard and received, I think those are such basic human needs. So it sounds as though you were like, on top of all those important needs. So it feels as though, like, anyways, when
Yeah.
I hear you speak, it just sounds like that person had a community to be, to meet, to be met in, and like, did you see an evolution after that conversation? Did you feel like it sort of was a catalyst for something?
Well, she came back only like a few months later, um, and she gave us like she wrote each of us a letter with and a little gift inside, and she felt really cared for, which was really sweet. I mean, I'm not going to say that we healed her. I mean,
No.
she helps herself, she supports herself and her
Yeah.
family members in her immediate circle, but I think she really appreciated the fact that we cared enough that we didn't, like, in our me and Andrew always say, like, human relationship over financial, and that's like the base of our business model. It's like we care so much about people,
Mhm.
that at the end of the day, if we see that you're hurting yourself, we don't care for your money. We just want you
Yeah.
to be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's that's a beautiful story. I was just thinking about what you said earlier today, where you said that it was a big day for you because you had to close one of your studios because of COVID. Um, is that because it's harder to have people in the businesses now, or because they have to wear a mask, or is it because the spacing, or what was the reason behind, or it just became financially viable?
About 2 weeks before COVID hit, we had opened up our second studio. So it was a really bad timing. It was really bad timing, and Monkland is a smaller space. It's a really small studio. And so when we did the numbers with the 2 meter distance, we could essentially have 6 people upstairs and 4 people downstairs, and it was just because we were in debt from the second studio that we opened. It was just unviable to have 2 studios and one that was so small that it would just become unsustainable. So we had to decide to close it.
Hmm. So how does this feel, this whole COVID measures, and how are you dealing with all that?
Never thought um, we would live through this. I never expected something like this. It's interesting, like as a community leader, as an owner of a business that I set out to open um, with a certain business model um, during COVID that all had to shift, and we had to be really adaptive and flexible in what we created. And so we created this whole online platform, and we had a lot of outdoor classes, but I never signed up for that. I signed up for a studio indoors that I can work at. I'm not good at technology, so like being online is not my favorite, but it's something that I had to do. And what's interesting is also hearing clients saying, you know, like I didn't buy classes for outdoors. I didn't buy classes for online. I bought classes to be at studio. And you know, as a business owner, I have to say, okay, well, you know, I'm like, this is the this is the reality of the situation, and we're so sorry. Like, what we can do is just not expire your classes, and you can take them when we show up again as a studio and all this. And what I really want to say is, is like, me neither. I didn't sign up for this either. Like, and we're all in this together, and I wish that you can support us just as much as we support you. And you know, but I get it. I'm the owner and they're the consumer, um, but it isn't the business that I signed up to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's real talk.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. And how do you feel like Quebec has been very more draconian than the rest of the country, but I think the rest of the country might be catching up to, to Quebec. I'm just curious how you feel about the direction Quebec is going into.
Um, I think I think Quebec is really, I mean, this is very political. I think Quebec cares more about finances than they do humans. Um, because when I look at opening up the business, I look at how many people that I will have to see throughout the day. And if we have 4 classes on the schedule with 28 people moving through the space, even at um, smaller classes, I still have to see over 100 people a day. And so I'm risking my life and saying like, oh, I won't see my family, my parents, my like anyone that's elder, because they are immunocompromised. And so I have to put myself in a position where I have to work no matter what, and I have no choice. So I'm not very happy with the decisions, especially since nothing's changed, except for the rules that we're allowed to go back to work. Um, so
When you
that's
feel like nothing has changed, what do you mean by that?
like, I mean, we know a little bit more about the virus, about the flu, about COVID, um, but the situation hasn't changed. It's still, you know, people risk their lives if they want to go out, if they want to see people. Um, they have to they have to go through quarantine if they come back from different countries. Um, you're advised not to see anyone that is immunocompromised. Um,
And I guess as like a business owner, you know, you can't, like, you're kind of like stuck with what the recommendations are, because or else people, clients might start criticizing you. You know, if you decide to take a radical position and be like, no, like, this is ridiculous, we're not doing that. It's a really sensitive dynamic that you're dealing with the public, what people believe, and how they're dealing with everything, right?
well, I mean, in that way, we're like we were the first to close, because again, humanity over financials any day of the week, and we are the last to open. Like we're only opening September 8th after Labor Day. That's like when we're starting to move indoors. We still have outdoor classes and online classes. Um, but at this point, like if we have, I mean, I'm speaking so transparently.
Yes.
We have debt and we can't afford not to open anymore. And if
Yeah.
government is saying that we have to open and we have to pay our bills, then we have no choice. Like, um, aside from filing for personal bankruptcy, which I cannot do, there's no other choice but to open. So I mean, we're taking all the precautions. We're making sure that we're wearing masks. We have the hand sanitizers. We're only letting certain amount of people into the space.
Mhm.
I've heard some stories about people having COVID and with the 2 meters and the masks, no one else in the room has caught it. So it made me feel more at ease. Like certain stories like that have made me feel more at ease to say like, okay, I'm okay to open the doors. Um, but but like I guess like normalcy makes it easier, but I think it is just the normalcy of it that is making it easier and not the actual situation. Because
Mhm.
nothing has changed.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
We're still fully
Well,
living.
I just feel so much for all the people that, you know, they have businesses and they have to deal with all this, and it's, you know, because flu season's going to probably come, and then, you know, who knows if it's COVID or just the flu, and
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy, right?
Hmm. Yeah, we have to be very careful. I mean, I had like a runny nose the other day, and I didn't go out for 4 days. And as a business owner, I feel like, you know, if the business is open and I can't go into work, like it just like it puts a lot of obstacles that normally we wouldn't think of.
Yeah,
Uh, but it is the world right now, and so
yeah,
we.
exactly. So, if we go back to body neutrality, is there something that you would like to sort of really emphasize, or just, you know, maybe like leave people with that would be important for you?
Um, yeah, I think like the more and more we can focus on body neutrality, um, and really focus on our internal experience of things instead of the outward physical appearance, the more and more we can get in touch with ourselves and our likes and our dislikes and all of the in betweens, the more and more we can experience life without labels, without boxes, without having to fit in, and just be completely ourselves and live in our freedom. And so we get to define our own way of life instead of living in a definition. And so I think the more we can practice it, the more we can close our eyes when we do things and not look at ourselves, um, the closer and closer we can get to that.
No, it's really liberating to think that there could be like an actual like paradigm where this idea is supported, you know?
Hmm.
Um, it just feels really freeing.
And it seems so radical at this sometimes, but I really think it's so simple.
It
Um,
is. It
mhm.
is actually coming back to a world where mirrors don't exist almost, you know, and it's more like um, an awareness of everything that can be cultivated outside of that visual
Mhm.
dimension. There's like all the other dimensions.
Yeah, like
It allows that human experience to expand.
Yeah, I think appreciating your body for the vehicle that it is and for everything that it does for you is absolutely amazing. To focus on the appearance of it is not worth it. We
Yeah.
all are so beautiful in so many different ways. And if we treat our bodies like we treat our best friends, then we would feel very different about our bodies. Um,
Yeah, I just had one more idea since we are the co-creative sex dialogues. I wondered if you wanted to finish with one comment around sex because we can also be very much in the appearances with that and also in the experience. And I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on body neutrality with sex.
oh, when we come out of the physical, imagine not thinking about your body, about your physical appearance during sex. It takes away the performative aspect of it, and it goes right into the feeling of it, and that is where the magic happens.
Well, that, I think that's going to give a lot of people, the desire to at least try it out. You know? The look on your face meant 1,000 words.
yeah, yeah, it's completely liberating. I think that it's yeah. I think I think instead of trying to love, like instead of pretending to love our bodies each and every day, we just own up to what we truly feel each and every day, and that the same thing goes in sex. Instead of pretending that we love everything that we're doing, we just say what we like and what we don't like, and then and then we start to really enjoy it.
It's like it's really like it brings us way more into authenticity, and being more truthful about everything that's going on. So it's a very liberating. Just when you're truthful about and authentic about what's going on, um, it's just a whole other experience, of self because you're like, okay, here I am, and it allows the other person permission to do the same thing. So something real between the two people can actually happen.
Yeah, 100 million%.
I think we agree on that one.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
I think yeah, I think there's a spectrum for everything that we live, and I don't think not one human being falls into the same. And if we can see ourselves as unique individuals, then we can start to connect in that way and grow ideas and evolve and strengthen in so many different ways,
Mhm.
instead of trying to all fit into the same box.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Nathalie. It was so inspiring and just it's so reassuring, and it just made me feel so excited that there's a real like almost intellectual framework to allow our human experience to expand.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for like describing it and showing how it can be applied in different circumstances, like in a fitness studio, all the way up to sex, like all these different situations, um, and even how it can have an impact on people that have that disorder around like how they perceive their bodies and what's actually going on inside. So thanks for all your wisdom, and I'm with you with all your. I can still feel all that heaviness you have around what's happened today in your business, and I really want to extend my compassion and love to all of that. And it sounds as though what you're doing in the world is so important. So it has to keep on expanding and being experienced. So sending you all the good juju for that.
yeah, that's why we're staying open and moving forward for sure.
Awesome. So I'm going to stop the recording, but I'll say goodbye to you maybe after so that I can fully say goodbye to you. So here, stop the recording. Um,